The cargo scanner beeped 3 times, which meant trouble. Alex Reed wiped grease from his hands and crawled out from under the broken mining drill. He had been fixing equipment for 6 hours straight, and his back ached from bending over machinery all day. The scanner never made that sound unless something was very wrong. Alex walked across the metal floor of the cargo bay. His boots made echoing sounds in the large, empty space. Haven's Rest was not a big station, but the cargo bay was the largest room they had. Most days it stayed empty because not many ships came this far out to trade. They were too far from the main space routes for regular visitors. The scanner kept beeping. Alex found the control panel and looked at the screen. According to the readings, something was hiding behind a stack of supply crates near the far wall. The scanner showed a heat signature, which meant whatever it was had to be alive. Alex felt nervous. Pirates sometimes tried to sneak onto stations by hiding in cargo areas. He grabbed a heavy wrench from his tool belt and walked slowly toward the crates. His heart beat faster with each step. The lighting in this part of the cargo bay was dim, and shadows moved when he walked past the overhead lights. Alex tried to be quiet, but his boots still made noise on the metal floor. When he reached the crates, Alex heard a soft sound. It was not the sound a pirate would make. It sounded more like a small animal that was hurt or scared. Alex put down his wrench and knelt on the floor. He moved one of the smaller crates out of the way and looked into the dark space behind it. 2 large eyes stared back at him. They were not human eyes. They were much bigger and had a strange glow to them. The eyes looked sad and tired, like they had seen too much pain. Alex had never seen eyes like these before on any creature he knew. The creature made a small noise and tried to move deeper into the shadows. Alex could see it was small, maybe the size of a house cat. Its body seemed to shine with a very faint light, but the light was weak and flickering like a dying lamp. The creature had what looked like tiny wings, but they appeared torn and damaged. Alex spoke softly. "Hey there, little guy. I'm not going to hurt you." The creature stopped trying to hide and looked at him again. Those big, sad eyes seemed to understand his words, which was impossible because Alex was speaking in human language. Very carefully, Alex moved another crate to give himself more room. Now he could see the creature better. It looked like a small dragon from the old Earth stories his grandmother used to tell him. But this dragon was real, and it was hurt. Its scales were like clear crystal, and they had patterns of light running through them. The light was very dim now, barely visible. The dragon tried to stand up but fell back down. Its tiny legs were shaking, and Alex could see that it was very weak. One of its wings had several tears in the thin skin, and dark liquid was leaking from the wounds. The creature looked at Alex and made a sound that was almost like crying. Alex had worked on Haven's Rest for 3 years, and he had seen many strange things. Space was full of creatures that humans had never discovered, but he had never seen anything that looked so intelligent and so sad at the same time. The dragon's eyes seemed to hold years of pain and loss. "Dr. Walsh needs to see this," Alex said, to himself. Dr. Emma Walsh was the station's scientist who studied alien life forms. She would know what to do with a creature like this. But Alex was afraid to leave the dragon alone. It looked so weak that it might die before he could get help. Alex took off his work jacket and laid it on the floor next to the dragon. "Here, this might help keep you warm," he said. The dragon looked at the jacket and then at Alex. Very slowly it crawled onto the soft fabric and curled up in a small ball. The light patterns in its scales flickered a little brighter for just a moment. Alex pressed the communication button on his tool belt. "Dr. Walsh, this is Alex in the cargo bay. I need you down here right away. And bring your alien life scanner." Dr. Walsh's voice came through the small speaker. "What did you find, Alex? Another broken piece of equipment?" "No," Alex said, looking down at the small dragon on his jacket. "I found something alive, something that needs help." It took Dr. Walsh 10 minutes to arrive at the cargo bay. She came running with her medical bag and scanner equipment. When she saw the dragon, she stopped and stared with her mouth open. "This is incredible," she whispered. She knelt down next to Alex and looked at the creature more closely. "I've never seen anything like this. Its bone structure looks reptilian, but these scales are completely unique. And look at these light patterns. The dragon opened its eyes. When Dr. Walsh spoke, it looked at her for a moment, then looked back at Alex. It seemed to trust Alex more than the new person. Dr. Walsh ran her scanner over the dragon's body. The device made soft humming sounds as it collected information. Alex, this creature is dying. Its energy levels are extremely low. But according to my scanner, it's not sick or poisoned. It's like something inside it is broken. Alex reached out slowly and held his hand near the dragon, not touching it, but close enough that it could feel the warmth from his skin. The dragon's light patterns flickered a little brighter again. "Did you see that?" Alex asked. "It responded when I got close." Dr. Walsh watched carefully as Alex moved his hand closer and then farther away. Each time Alex moved closer, the dragon's lights got a little brighter. When Alex pulled his hand away, the lights grew dim again. "This is fascinating," Dr. Walsh said. "It's almost like it's drawing energy from you somehow. But that should be impossible. Humans don't produce the kind of energy that alien creatures need." The dragon tried to lift its head and looked directly at Alex. For just a moment, Alex felt something strange in his mind. It was like hearing a voice, but not with his ears. The voice was very weak and full of sadness. Alex could not understand the words, but he could feel the emotions behind them. The dragon was trying to tell him something important. "I think it's trying to communicate," Alex told Dr. Walsh. "I can feel something like it's reaching into my thoughts." Dr. Walsh looked amazed. "Alex, if this creature is telepathic, then we might be looking at one of the most intelligent species in the galaxy. We need to help it survive." Alex nodded and carefully picked up his jacket with the dragon still curled up on it. The creature did not try to run away. Instead, it seemed to relax when Alex held it. "Let's take it to the medical bay," Alex said. "We'll figure out how to help it." As they walked through the station's corridors, Alex could not stop thinking about those sad, intelligent eyes. Whatever this creature was, it had lived through something terrible. And somehow, Alex felt responsible for making sure it survived. 3 days later, the small dragon was still alive, but barely. Dr. Walsh had tried everything she could think of to help the creature get stronger. She had given it different kinds of food, different types of energy supplements, and even tried exposing it to various forms of radiation that some alien species needed to survive. Nothing worked. The dragon, who Alex had started calling Ember because of the way its scales flickered like dying flames, would only eat small amounts of the mineral supplements Dr. Walsh provided. But it was clear that this was not its natural food. Ember was getting weaker each day, and the light patterns in its scales were growing dimmer. Alex spent most of his free time in the medical bay with Ember. He would sit in a chair next to the small bed Dr. Walsh had made for the creature and just talk to it. Alex told Ember about Earth, about the oceans and forests that humans remembered from their home planet. He told stories about his childhood and about the work he did fixing machines on the station. Each time Alex talked to Ember, the dragon's lights would grow a little brighter. It was not much, but it was enough to keep the creature alive. Dr. Walsh had noticed this pattern and was trying to understand what was happening. "Alex, I've been studying the scans I took when you hold your hand near Ember," Dr. Walsh said one morning. She showed him a computer screen with wavy lines and colored graphs. "Look at these energy readings. When you're close to Ember, its body starts absorbing something from you, but it's not your body heat or anything physical." Alex looked at the screen but could not understand the scientific symbols and numbers. "What do you think it is?" he asked. "I think it might be related to your brain activity," Dr. Walsh explained. "Specifically your emotional state. Every time you feel strong emotions near Ember, the creature's energy levels improve slightly." This was hard for Alex to believe. "You're saying that my feelings are somehow feeding this dragon?" Dr. Walsh nodded. "I know it sounds impossible, but the evidence is clear. Yesterday, when you were telling Ember that story about your sister's wedding, you were feeling happy and nostalgic. Ember's energy levels spiked during that entire conversation." Alex looked over at Ember, who was curled up on his bed, breathing slowly. The dragon's eyes were closed, but Alex could tell it was listening to their conversation. If that's true, then maybe other people on the station could help too. Dr. Walsh had the same thought. "I was hoping you would say that," We need to try everything we can to keep Ember alive. I'll ask some of the other crew members to spend time with him." That afternoon, Chief Medic Luis Santos came to visit Ember. Luis was a calm and gentle man who had been working in space medicine for 20 years. He sat next to Ember's bed and began telling the dragon about the different worlds he had visited and the various alien creatures he had helped heal over the years. Ember's eyes opened when Luis started talking. The dragon seemed to sense that this human was a healer, someone who dedicated his life to helping others. The light patterns in Ember's scales responded to Luis's presence, but in a different way than they responded to Alex. Where Alex's emotions made Ember's lights flicker, with hope and determination, Luis's calm nature made the lights flow in steady, peaceful patterns. "This is remarkable," Dr. Walsh said, watching her scanner readings. "Luis's emotional signature is completely different from yours, Alex, but it's still helping Ember." Over the next few days, more crew members came to visit Ember. Security officer Maya Okafor brought her fierce protective instincts. When she sat with Ember and talked about her job keeping the station safe, the dragon's lights pulsed with strength and courage. Engineer Ben Torres shared his excitement about building and fixing things, and Ember's scales sparkled with curiosity and wonder. Each person who visited brought something different to help heal Ember. But Alex remained the dragon's favorite. Whenever Alex entered the medical bay, Ember would lift his head and make soft sounds of greeting. The creature's lights always burned brightest when Alex was nearby. During one of these visits, something unexpected happened. Alex was reading to Ember from an old book of Earth poetry when suddenly he felt a presence in his mind. It was much stronger than the weak telepathic contact he had felt when they first found Ember. This time, images flowed clearly from the dragon's mind into Alex's thoughts. Alex saw flashes of a beautiful world with crystal cities that reached toward the sky. He saw dragons like Ember, but much larger, flying between the stars without ships. Their scales blazed with brilliant light as they danced through space, feeding on the energy of suns and cosmic radiation. Then the images turned dark and terrible. Alex saw ships with strange markings attacking the crystal world. He felt Ember's terror and confusion as explosions destroyed the beautiful cities. He experienced the dragon's desperate flight through space, badly injured and alone, searching for somewhere safe to hide. The vision ended suddenly, leaving Alex breathing heavily and feeling sick to his stomach. Ember was looking at him with those large, intelligent eyes, and Alex could sense the creature's gratitude for sharing such painful memories. "Dr. Walsh," Alex called out. "I think Ember just showed me what happened to his people." Dr. Walsh hurried, over with her scanner running. "What did you see?" Alex described the visions while Dr. Walsh took readings from both him and Ember. When Alex finished his story, Dr. Walsh looked worried. "Alex, if what you saw is true, then Ember might be the last survivor of his entire species. That would explain why he's so traumatized and why his natural abilities are damaged." "What do you mean by natural abilities?" Alex asked. "From your description, Ember's people were able to absorb energy directly from stars and cosmic radiation. That's how they survived in space without ships. But trauma can damage psychic abilities in some species. Ember's connection to cosmic energy sources might be broken because of what happened to his family and his world." Alex looked at Ember with new understanding. The dragon was not just hurt physically. His heart was broken from losing everyone he had ever known. "So he can't eat the energy he needs to survive?" "Exactly," Dr. Walsh said. "But somehow, human emotional energy is providing a substitute. It's not perfect, but it's keeping him alive." That night, Alex sat with Ember for a long time without talking. He just thought about what the dragon had been through and felt deep sadness for his loss. But mixed with the sadness was something else that Alex felt strongly: a refusal to give up. Humans had faced terrible losses too. They had left their dying home planet and scattered across the galaxy, often facing hostile aliens and impossible challenges. But they never stopped fighting, never stopped hoping that things could get better. As Alex focused on these feelings of hope and determination, Ember's scales began to glow brighter than they had since the day Alex found him. The dragon lifted his head and looked at Alex with what seemed like surprise. For the first time, Ember made a sound that was not sad or weak. It was a small sound, but it carried a note of something that had been missing. Hope. Dr. Walsh, who had been monitoring from across the room, checked her readings and smiled. Alex, Ember's energy levels just increased by 15%. Whatever you're feeling right now, keep feeling it. Alex reached out and gently touched Ember's forehead with one finger. The dragon's scales were warm and smooth, and the light patterns pulsed in response to the touch. We're not going to let you die, Ember, Alex whispered. Humans don't give up on friends. Ember closed his eyes and made a soft purring sound. For the first time since they had found him, the dragon looked peaceful as he fell asleep. 2 weeks had passed since Ember first shared his memories with Alex, and the dragon was growing stronger every day. What started as a few crew members visiting occasionally had turned into something much bigger. Word about the mysterious dragon had spread throughout Haven's Rest, and now people came to see Ember during their off-duty hours just to spend time with him. Ember was no longer the size of a house cat. He had grown to the size of a medium dog, and his crystal scales now blazed, with steady light instead of the weak flickering they had shown when Alex first found him. Most amazing of all, the tears in his wing membranes were healing. Dr. Walsh could not explain it medically, but the dragon's body was repairing itself at an incredible rate. The medical bay had become too small for all the visitors, so Commander Robert Hull had given permission to move Ember to the station's main recreation room. Hull was a tough old soldier who rarely showed emotion, but even he had started coming to visit Ember during his evening rounds. The dragon seemed to sense Hull's deep loyalty to his crew, and his scales would pulse with warm golden light whenever the commander was near. Alex still spent more time with Ember than anyone else. The dragon had learned to recognize Alex's footsteps in the corridor, and would lift his head eagerly whenever he heard him coming. Their telepathic connection had grown much stronger, and now Ember could share more detailed thoughts and images. Through these mental conversations, Alex learned incredible things about Ember's people, who called themselves the Australians. They had been traveling between stars for millions of years, long before humans had even learned to make fire. The Australians served as guardians of the galaxy, watching over younger species and protecting cosmic balance. They lived for thousands of years and had witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations. They sound like space angels, said Lucy Park, one of the station's communications officers. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor next to Ember, gently stroking his scales while he shared more memories with Alex. Alex translated what Ember was showing him. He says his people never interfered directly with other species. They believed every race had to find their own path, but they would sometimes guide dangerous asteroids away from populated worlds, or send warnings about solar flares through telepathic dreams. Dr. Walsh, who was taking notes on everything Alex reported, looked up from her computer. Alex, ask Ember about the attackers. Who were they, and why did they destroy his world? Ember's scales dimmed when Alex asked this question. The dragon's distress was so strong that Alex could feel it as a sharp pain in his own chest. But Ember forced himself to share the dark memories. Alex saw images of massive warships with angular designs and weapons that turned crystal cities to ash in seconds. The attackers wore armor that hid their faces, but Ember's memories showed glimpses of their insignia, a clenched fist surrounded by stars. He calls them the Hegemony Coalition, Alex said, his voice tight with the emotions he was experiencing. Through Ember, they hunt down species with psychic abilities because they think telepaths are dangerous to their expansion plans. Commander Hull, who had been listening quietly from across the room, suddenly stood up. His face was grim. Did you say Hegemony Coalition? Alex nodded. Why? Do you know them? I know of them, Hull replied. They're a military alliance that controls several sectors in the Outer Rim. Intelligence reports say they've been expanding aggressively for the past 50 years, but we thought they were just another group of space pirates with big ambitions. Dr. Walsh looked worried. If they specifically target psychic species, and if Ember is the last of his kind, then they might still be hunting him. Ember's scales flickered with fear when he heard this. The dragon pressed closer to Alex, seeking comfort from the human's presence. Alex put his arm around Ember's neck and felt the dragon's rapid heartbeat. "They won't find you here," Alex said firmly. "We won't let them hurt you." Over the following days, Ember continued sharing his knowledge of the galaxy with the humans. He showed Alex star maps that revealed the locations of dozens of worlds that human explorers had never discovered. He shared information about alien technologies and ancient ruins that contained scientific knowledge far beyond human understanding. But the most important thing Ember shared was not about his own people or the galaxy's secrets. It was about humans themselves. Through his telepathic connection with Alex and the other crew members, Ember had learned something that amazed him. "He says humans are unique," Alex told the gathered crew members one evening. "In all his people's millions of years of watching over the galaxy, they never encountered a species like us. What makes us so special?" asked Ben Torres. Alex listened to Ember's thoughts and then smiled. "He says most intelligent species develop psychic abilities as they evolve, but humans developed something else instead: emotional resilience. We have the ability to hope even in hopeless situations, to keep fighting even when we know we might lose." Ember's scales pulsed with warm light as he shared more thoughts with Alex. He says that's why his connection to cosmic energy is healing. Australians normally absorb power from stars and radiation, but he's learned to absorb power from human emotions. Our feelings are actually feeding him and making him stronger. Dr. Walsh looked fascinated. So Ember isn't just surviving on human, emotional energy. He's evolving. He's developing new abilities that his species never had before. This was proven true when Ember demonstrated something that left everyone speechless. The dragon stood up on his back legs and spread his newly healed wings. The crystal scales across his entire body blazed with brilliant light that filled the recreation room with rainbow colors. Then, without making a sound, Ember projected his thoughts directly into everyone's minds at the same time. The crew members felt a wave of gratitude and love so strong that several people started crying. But mixed with Ember's emotions were reflections of their own feelings: Alex's determination, Dr. Walsh's curiosity, Commander Hull's protective instincts, and the hopes and dreams of everyone who had helped heal him. "Thank you," Ember's voice said clearly in all their minds. "You saved my life, but you gave me something more. You gave me a new kind of family." The telepathic contact faded, leaving everyone staring at Ember in wonder. The dragon folded his wings and curled up next to Alex, looking tired but happy. Dr. Walsh checked her scanner readings and gasped. "His energy levels are now 3 times higher than when we first found him. And these new psychic abilities he's showing, they're completely different from what his species originally possessed." Commander Hull looked thoughtful. "If Ember is this much stronger now, and if the Hegemony Coalition is still hunting for survivors of his species, we might have a problem. Strong psychic signals can be detected across long distances." As if responding to Hull's concerns, the station's alarm system suddenly activated. The lights in the recreation room switched to emergency red, and the intercom crackled to life. "All crew to emergency stations," announced the voice of Communications Officer Lucy Park. "We have 3 unidentified ships approaching Haven's Rest. They're not responding to our standard hails, and their weapon systems are powered up." Ember's scales immediately dimmed with fear, and he pressed against Alex's side. The dragon did not need to share his thoughts for Alex to understand what he was feeling. Somehow, the Hegemony Coalition had found them. Commander Hull was already moving toward the door. "Everyone stay with Ember. I'll handle this from the bridge." He paused and looked back at the dragon. "We're not going to let them take you, son. That's a promise." As Hull left the room, Alex knelt down next to Ember and placed both hands on the dragon's head. "Remember what I told you about humans," he said softly. "We don't give up on family. And you're family now." Ember's scales brightened slightly, drawing strength from Alex's unwavering determination. But through their telepathic bond, Alex could feel the dragon's terror at the thought of falling back into the hands of those who had destroyed his world. The fate of the last Australian now rested with a small mining station crew who refused to abandon their friend, no matter what the cost might be. The 3 hegemony ships hung in space like dark metal spears pointed at Haven's Rest. Alex could see them through the recreation room's small window, their hulls reflecting the distant light of the system's star. Each ship was twice the size of the mining station, and their weapon ports glowed with threatening energy. Commander Hull's voice came through the intercom system. "This is Commander Hull of Haven's Rest Station. You are in violation of neutral space treaties. State your business or leave this system immediately." The response came in a cold, mechanical voice that made Ember whimper with fear. "Haven's Rest Station. This is Strike Commander Vale of the Hegemony Coalition. We are conducting a sweep for dangerous psychic entities. Our sensors have detected illegal telepathic activity originating from your station. Prepare to be boarded for inspection." Alex felt Ember's terror through their mental link. The dragon's scales were flickering rapidly between dim light and complete darkness. Dr. Walsh was scanning Ember with her equipment while the rest of the crew gathered around them. "Commander Hull," Dr. Walsh called into her communicator. "Ember's psychic energy is spiking because he's scared. If those ships have sensitive equipment, they'll be able to pinpoint his exact location on the station." Hull's voice came back immediately. "Can we somehow hide his energy signature?" "I don't think so," Dr. Walsh replied. "His connection to all of us is too strong now. When he's afraid, he automatically draws more energy from our emotions, which makes his psychic presence even stronger." Ember suddenly stood up and spread his wings. His scales blazed with silver light as he projected his thoughts to everyone in the room. The crew members felt his determination mixed with deep sadness. "Alex," translated Ember's message. "He says he won't let us get hurt because of him. He wants to surrender to the hegemony ship so they'll leave the station alone." "Absolutely not," Commander Hull's voice crackled through the intercom. "Nobody on this station gets left behind. That's always been our rule, and we're not changing it now." The other crew members nodded in agreement. Chief Medic Luis Santos stepped forward. "Ember, you're part of this crew now. We protect our own." Security Officer Maya Okafor checked her weapon. "Besides, we've all heard the stories about what the hegemony does to psychic species. They don't just capture them. They experiment on them until they die." Ember's scales dimmed again as he absorbed this information. Through his connection with Alex, the dragon shared images of what he remembered about hegemony research facilities. Alex saw laboratories filled with cages containing various alien creatures, all of them being subjected to painful tests designed to understand and control their psychic abilities. "We need a plan," Dr. Walsh said. "Those ships won't wait much longer before they start boarding procedures." Commander Hull's voice came through the speakers again, but this time he was speaking to the hegemony ships. "Strike Commander Vale. Haven's Rest is a civilian mining station operating under neutral territory protection. We have no weapons and pose no threat to your operations. Whatever your sensors are detecting must be equipment malfunction." The mechanical voice responded coldly. "Commander Hull, do not attempt to deceive us. Our psychic detection equipment is extremely accurate. The telepathic entity on your station is powerful and potentially dangerous. You have 10 minutes to surrender it to us, or we will board your station by force." Alex looked around the recreation room at all the people who had helped heal Ember over the past weeks. These were miners, engineers, medics, and mechanics, not soldiers. They had no weapons that could fight military warships. But as Alex watched their faces, he saw something that surprised him. Nobody looked like they were planning to give up. Ben Torres, the young engineer, was already working on his portable computer. "I might be able to overload our power systems to create some kind of interference with their sensors." "That's too dangerous," Dr. Walsh said. "If you overload the wrong systems, we could lose life support." Lucy Park looked up from her communication equipment. "I've been monitoring their transmissions. They're not just looking for Ember. They're looking for any survivors of what they call Project Starburst." Ember's reaction to hearing that name was immediate and violent. His scales flared with bright white light, and everyone in the room felt a wave of rage and pain through their mental connection. Images flooded Alex's mind. Hegemony scientists studying captured Australians, trying to learn how to use their star manipulation abilities as weapons. Project Starburst was what they called the destruction of my world, Alex said, translating Ember's memories. But it wasn't just about killing his people. They were trying to steal Australian technology to build weapons that could destroy entire solar systems. Commander Hull's voice came through the intercom with new urgency. People, we just got a lot. More information from our long-range sensors. Those aren't just patrol ships, they're equipped with research laboratories and holding cells specifically designed for psychic creatures. Dr. Walsh looked horrified. They're not planning to kill, Ember quickly. They want to study him and learn how his new abilities work. The 10-minute deadline was approaching rapidly. Through the window, Alex could see the hegemony ships moving into boarding positions, their hulls open to reveal smaller attack craft that would carry soldiers to the station. Ember suddenly walked to the center of the recreation room and sat down. His scales began glowing brighter than anyone had ever seen them. The dragon looked around at all the humans who had become his family, and Alex felt a complex mix of emotions through their link: gratitude, love, determination, and something else that took Alex a moment to recognize. It was hope. Not just Ember's hope, but the hope of every human on the station reflected and amplified through the dragon's evolved psychic abilities. He's doing something, Dr. Walsh said, watching her scanner readings climb rapidly. His energy output is increasing exponentially. Alex knelt next to Ember and placed his hand on the dragon's head. Through their connection, he understood what Ember was planning. He's not just drawing energy from us anymore, he's learning to give it back. Ember's scales reached a level of brightness that forced everyone to shield their eyes. But instead of feeling drained, the crew members felt energized. Their fear was replaced by calm confidence. Their desperation was replaced by clear thinking. Commander Hull's voice came through the intercom, but now it sounded different, stronger, and more determined. All crew members, I want you to know that I'm proud to serve with every one of you. Whatever happens in the next few minutes, we face it together. The hegemony attack craft were now docking with Haven's Rest. Alex could hear the sound of cutting tools working on the station's outer hull. In a few minutes, armed soldiers would be searching the corridors for Ember. But something had changed. In the recreation room, the crew members were no longer acting like frightened civilians. They moved with purpose and coordination, as if they had trained for this situation for years. Alex realized that Ember was somehow sharing tactical knowledge with all of them. Information the dragon had absorbed from the memories of hegemony soldiers during his people's destruction. Everyone listen carefully, Commander Hull announced. We're going to give our friends exactly what they're looking for, but not in the way they expect. Ember stood up and walked toward the door of the recreation room. His scales were now blazing like a small star, and his telepathic presence filled the entire station. Through their shared connection, every crew member could feel the dragon's absolute trust in them. Alex followed Ember toward the corridor, and the rest of the crew fell in behind them. They were no longer running or hiding. They were walking together toward a confrontation that would determine not just Ember's fate, but the future of every psychic species in the galaxy. The sound of boots in the corridor told them that the hegemony soldiers had reached the intersections of the station. In moments, they would come face to face with the last Australian and the humans who refused to abandon him. But Alex was no longer afraid. Through his connection with Ember, he could feel something that the hegemony had never encountered before. The combined will of humans who had decided that some things were worth fighting for no matter what the cost. The corridor filled with the sound of heavy boots as 12 hegemony soldiers rounded the corner. They wore black armor that covered their entire bodies, and their weapons hummed with deadly energy. At their head walked a tall figure whose armor bore the insignia of Strike Commander Vale. The soldiers stopped when they saw the crew of Haven's Rest standing together in the hallway. At the center of the group, Ember sat calmly with his crystal scales blazing like captured starlight. The dragon's presence filled the corridor with warm light that made the soldiers' dark armor look even more threatening. Strike Commander Vale removed his helmet, revealing a pale face with cold gray eyes. He looked at Ember with the expression of someone examining an interesting piece of equipment. So this is the last Australian, smaller than our records indicated, but the psychic readings are remarkable. Commander Hull stepped forward, placing himself between the soldiers and Ember. This creature is under the protection of Haven's rest station. He's committed no crimes and poses no threat to anyone. Vale laughed, a sound without any warmth. Commander, you clearly don't understand what you're harboring. That creature belongs to a species that could manipulate stars and bend space itself. In the wrong hands, abilities like that could destroy entire civilizations. In whose hands? Alex asked, moving to stand beside Commander Hull. Because from where I'm standing, you're the ones pointing weapons at innocent people. Vale's eyes focused on Alex with interest. You must be the human who's been bonding with the creature. Our sensors show an unprecedented psychic connection between you two. That makes you almost as valuable for our research as the Australian itself. Through his link with Ember, Alex felt the dragon's anger at the threat to his human family. But mixed with that anger was something else, a deep understanding that had been growing during the weeks of healing. Ember had learned something about humans that even they didn't fully understand about themselves. Ember stood up and walked slowly toward the hegemony soldiers. His scales pulsed with gentle light, and Alex felt the dragon projecting calm thoughts to everyone in the corridor. Even the soldiers seemed to relax slightly in response to the peaceful telepathic energy. Fascinating, Vale said. The creature is trying to pacify us, but our armor includes psychic dampeners specifically designed to resist telepathic influence. Ember stopped a few feet away from Vale and looked up at him with those large, intelligent eyes. When the dragon spoke, his voice reached into everyone's mind simultaneously, soldiers and station crew alike. You destroyed my family because you feared what we might become. Ember's telepathic voice was clear and sad. But you never understood what we actually were. Vale raised his weapon toward Ember. We understand perfectly. Your species had the power to threaten our expansion and our way of life. No, Ember replied through the mental link. You destroyed us because you could not imagine any use for power except domination. But these humans taught me something different. Alex felt Ember reaching out through their connection, not just to him, but to every crew member who had helped in the healing process. The dragon was drawing on all the emotions they had shared. Luis's compassion, Maya's protective strength, Ben's curiosity, Lucy's hope, Commander Hull's loyalty, and Dr. Walsh's dedication to helping others. But instead of keeping that energy for himself, Ember began projecting it outward. The warm light from his scales grew brighter, and suddenly every person in the corridor could feel what the others were feeling. The hegemony soldiers experienced emotions they had been trained to suppress: doubt about their mission, sympathy for the creature they were supposed to capture, and something they had never expected to feel toward their enemies: understanding. What is it doing? One of the soldiers asked, his voice shaking as he lowered his weapon. Vale tried to maintain control. It's some kind of advanced telepathic manipulation. Don't let it affect you. But Ember's influence was growing stronger. Through Alex, he reached out to touch the minds of every soldier in the corridor. Instead of trying to control them or make them afraid, the dragon simply showed them the truth of what had happened to his people. The soldiers saw through Ember's memories the beautiful crystal cities of the Australian homeworld. They felt the peace and harmony of a civilization that had spent millions of years nurturing life throughout the galaxy, rather than conquering it. They experienced the terror and confusion of the attack that had destroyed Ember's family, an attack ordered by the same hegemony leadership they served. This is impossible, Vale said, but his voice no longer sounded certain. The psychic dampeners should be blocking this completely. Dr. Walsh, who had been quietly monitoring the situation with her scanner, spoke up. Your dampeners are designed to block traditional telepathic attacks. But what Ember is doing isn't an attack. He's sharing emotions, not trying to control minds. Alex understood what was happening. Ember isn't just telepathic anymore. The time he spent healing with us changed his abilities. He learned to process human emotions, and now he can reflect them back to anyone. The effect on the hegemony soldiers was profound. These were people who had been trained from childhood to follow orders without question, to see other species as threats to be eliminated. But now they were experiencing empathy, compassion, and the kind of hope that humans carried even in the darkest times. One by one, the soldiers began lowering their weapons. Their faces showed confusion and conflict, as they struggled with feelings they had never been allowed to have. "Stand down," Vale shouted at his troops. "That's an order." But the soldiers were no longer listening to him. Through Ember's connection, they could feel the genuine care that the station crew had for each other and for the dragon. They experienced what it was like to help someone heal instead of causing harm. The youngest soldier, barely out of his teens, removed his helmet entirely. "Commander Vale, sir, what if we've been wrong? What if these psychic species aren't dangerous the way we've been told?" Vale raised his weapon toward his own soldier. "You've been compromised by telepathic influence. Follow your orders or face court-martial." That was when Commander Hull stepped forward. "Son," he said to the young soldier, "you don't have to choose between following bad orders and facing punishment. There's a third option." Ember's scales blazed brighter as he projected a new set of images to everyone in the corridor. But these weren't memories of the past. They were visions of a possible future. The dragon showed them a galaxy where different species worked together instead of fearing each other, where psychic abilities were used for healing and communication instead of war. Alex felt tears on his face as he experienced Ember's vision. In the future the dragon imagined, humans and Australians and dozens of other species explored the stars together, each contributing their unique strengths to solve problems that no single race could handle alone. "This is what my people dreamed of," Ember's voice spoke in their minds. "This is what we were trying to protect when you destroyed us. But it doesn't have to end with their deaths. It can begin with your choice to stop the killing." Strike Commander Vale looked around at his soldiers, all of whom were now staring at him with expressions he had never seen on their faces before. They looked like people who had just woken up from a long, dark dream. "Sir," said the young soldier, "I volunteer to defect to Haven's rest station. I can't go back to hunting innocent people." "As do I," said another soldier. "And me," said a third. Within moments, 11 of the 12 soldiers had declared their intention to abandon the hegemony and seek asylum with the station crew. Only Vale himself remained loyal to his original mission. But even Vale was affected by Ember's telepathic sharing. Alex could see the conflict in the strike commander's eyes as he struggled against emotions he had spent his entire adult life suppressing. "This changes nothing," Vale said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Even if I return alone, the hegemony will send more ships. They'll destroy this entire station to capture or kill that creature." Ember walked closer to Vale and looked up at him with infinite sadness and compassion. "Then come with us," the dragon projected. "Help us build the future you just saw instead of destroying it." For a long moment Vale stood frozen with his weapon pointed at Ember. Alex held his breath, knowing that the strike commander's decision would determine the fate of everyone on the station. Then slowly Vale lowered his weapon. "I've spent 20 years following orders I never questioned," he said quietly. "Maybe it's time I started thinking for myself." The corridor filled with warm light, as Ember's joy radiated through his telepathic connection to everyone present. The dragon had not just survived the encounter with his people's destroyers. He had transformed them into allies. Alex knelt down and put his arms around Ember's neck. "You did it," he whispered. "You found a way to heal them too." Through their bond, Alex felt Ember's response. The dragon's broken heart had indeed been healed, not just by human compassion, but by learning to extend that compassion to others. The last Australian had become something his species had never been before, a bridge between worlds, capable of healing the ancient wounds that divided the galaxy. Commander Hull looked out the window at the 3 hegemony ships that were still waiting in space. "We're going to need to figure out what to do about those ships and their crews." Ember's scales pulsed with confident light as he shared his final vision with everyone. In his mind, Alex saw those ships not as instruments of destruction, but as the beginning of a new kind of fleet, one dedicated to exploration and peaceful contact instead of conquest. The baby dragon with a broken heart had found someone who cured him. But in the process of healing, he had learned to become the cure for others as well. The galaxy would never be the same.